Hello and welcome to my guide on how to navigate the Gauntlet and kill the crystalline hunllef in OSRS. Let's keep it real. The Gauntlet is not that hard. You probably just suck at this game. That's okay. I suck at this game too. That's why I'm making this guide, to teach people ways to do this challenge and others that might not be the most efficient, but still get the job done. I will avoid talking about things you can find on the wiki or that you've probably seen in other videos, and focus solely on how I get my KC and what might work best for you if you're not a skilled PVMer. So now that you know that this isn't going to be an efficient guide, let's talk about how to complete the Gauntlet and get your KC. When you enter the Gauntlet, you'll have 10 minutes to gather resources before you are force teleported to the boss fight. In this 10 minutes, there are 4 components you'll need to gather before taking on the hunllef: resources for armor, weapons, paddlefish for healing, and grim herbs for prayer and stamina potions. Click on nodes around the starting room until you find some of the low-level mobs to kill for your first weapon frame. Getting this out of the way early makes it easier to move through the rooms and gather what you'll need. In addition to the frame, try and collect 80 crystal shards in that first room so you can immediately upgrade your first weapon to a tier 2 weapon. You can get crystal shards by killing mobs or collecting resources. I recommend going ahead and collecting resources so that you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Your first weapon should either be the ranged or magic weapon depending on your level and if you have rigor unlocked. It's personal preference, but I usually go with the bow so I can flick rigor for some extra DPS. The halberd is fine too, but for the boss fight, if you're not that great at this game, it's going to be better for you to not have to worry about moving in range to be able to use melee. With the bow and staff, you can attack from anywhere in the room, which comes in handy when you're running from the tornadoes. So now that you have your first weapon, it's time to go out and start collecting resources. In total, for the way that I do it, you'll need 7 friend bark, 7 crystal ore, 7 cotton, because I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of that thing, 2 to 3 grim leaves, at least 12 paddlefish, and at least 500 crystal shards. The reason why you gather 7 of each of the armor components is because I recommend making tier 2 armor. A lot of people recommend making tier 1 armor. The reason why I say go ahead and go for the tier 2 is because it gives you room to make mistakes. You get less of a max hit from the crystalline hunllef, and it allows you to tank more hits than you would if you were wearing the tier 1 armor. Making tier 2 armor is probably going to add a minute or 2 to your prep time, but like I said before, this isn't an efficient guide. This is a guide for players who are either struggling or just bad at PVM in general. That same logic goes for why I recommend making 2 or 3 stamina prayer restore potions and at least having 12 paddlefish, because it allows you to tank more. It allows you to spend a little bit more time, and if you make a mistake, you have the food, you have the potions, you can recover from it. And again, you have 10 minutes to gather everything. That should be more than enough time to get all the supplies that are recommended and get everything prepared before you take on the crystalline hunllef. The last thing you'll need to acquire is the components for tier 3 weapons, the crystalline bowstring and orb. If you've seen other videos or looked at the wiki, you'll know you get these as drops from the demi-bosses in the outside rooms of the Gauntlet area. They will only spawn in the middle 3 rooms in each direction from the center, so you may need to go to 1 or 2 quadrants to find the dragon and dark beast. Each time you enter the Gauntlet, it's randomly generated. So if for whatever reason you go to 2 quadrants and you haven't found the dragon and dark beast, well, you just got really unlucky. Once you've got your potions, fish, armor, and weapons ready, it's time to fight the crystalline hunllef. Notice what overhead prayer he's using before entering, and use the right weapon when you start the fight. You will always pray protect from missiles at the start of the fight, and I like to leave rigor or augury on for the duration of the encounter, only switching those when I switch my weapons. If you only have Eagle Eye or Mystic Might unlocked, it's fine to use those too. Every 6 attacks you use that the hunllef isn't praying correctly against will trigger the hunllef to change prayers to the style that you're using for the 6th attack. I might make another video on how to use this mechanic to only need 1 weapon in the fight, But for this video, just remember to count 6 attacks before switching your weapon and offensive prayer. The hunllef has a cycle where every 4 attacks it has against you, it will switch whatever style it was using to the other style. It only uses magic and range, so those are the only 2 that you need to worry about switching to. And like you saw in the clip above, getting hit off prayer can deal a lot of damage, so it's really important that you pay attention even while you're avoiding the colored tiles and the tornadoes that follow you, that you keep the right prayer on at all times. In order of priority for what you need to pay attention to when you're fighting the crystalline hunllef, the most important thing is the overhead prayer that you're using. That's the most important thing to keep an eye on. The next 2 is going to be the colored tiles on the ground and the tornadoes. It's super important that you pay attention to those 2, because if those hit you, they're going to stack you out pretty quickly. The last thing that you need to pay attention to is the weapon that you're using. In terms of priority, yes, it's important to keep putting out DPS against them, but keeping your health above 0 is even more important if you want to get your KC. If you're struggling with avoiding the tornadoes and the colored tiles, I recommend turning on the true tile indicator setting in Ruin Light. That'll show you the exact position of where your character actually is during the gameplay, and it can be really helpful to know where you need to click to keep avoiding the colored tiles and those tornadoes. Also avoid stepping underneath the hunllef, because he can stomp on you and put out a ridiculous amount of damage, kind of like Corporeal Beast. If you're trying to get your first KC, it might take you a few run-throughs before you can actually finish the gauntlet. Don't get discouraged. This is one of those bosses where you kind of just have to do it multiple times to learn the mechanics before you're able to do it consistently and get KC without dying. It took me probably 10 normal gauntlet runs before I was able to do 1 corrupted gauntlet run, and even then I still die every now and then. But then again, I'm terrible at the game, so your mileage may vary. The best part about the gauntlet is you don't need anything when you go in. If you finish the gauntlet, it's pure money every time. You put nothing into it. And I didn't talk about recommended stats to do the gauntlet. The truth is, if you have the requirements to do Song of the Elves, you can do the gauntlet. There's no number that I'm going to put on it, no arbitrary 90 plus requirements or anything like that, because anybody can do it. And once you get better at it, you can start using less resources to finish the gauntlet. I don't normally do the normal gauntlet anymore. I normally only do the corrupted gauntlet. But if you're going to do the normal gauntlet, once you've done it a few times, tier 1 armor is fine. You can get away with only having 1 tier 3 weapon. It really gets a lot easier once you're comfortable with it. And kind of like Jad, once you lose that panicky feeling, it becomes just like any other boss in the game. And if I left anything out, or if you have any weird tips or tricks for people who are struggling to kill this boss, feel free to leave a comment about it. The more the merrier. I'm new at making videos, so I'm not the best. I might have forgot something, and I always appreciate feedback. If you did enjoy the video, consider leaving a like. I want to start making some more videos about different bosses, different things in RuneScape that I kind of have a unique way of doing, or ways that just aren't super efficient. I play the game for fun. I'm not super concerned with getting the best GP per hour or the best XP per hour. And I know a lot of people are kind of like me, and a lot of the guides that I've seen on YouTube are kind of tailored towards people trying to do things quickly or trying to maximize their kills per hour, and that just doesn't work for some people. I'm working on a guide for the Corrupted Gauntlet right now, actually, but if you have something that you want to see me make a video about, feel free to comment about it. I don't know if a lot of people are going to see this or not, but I figured that if it helps somebody, then it's worth making. And like anything else in RuneScape, if you die multiple times while you're learning it, just remember that each time you die, it's a new lesson and it's something that you can improve on. But that's going to wrap this video up. And like I said before, if you liked it, consider liking it. Maybe subscribe. I might make some more guides in the future if enough people see this and want it. But if not, then this will be a 1, maybe 2 video channel. Have a good one.